Session Blood. Hello and welcome everyone. We're going to watch a matchup that we haven't seen before in the channel, which is Wizard. Wizard versus Warrior is going to be this one. And it's going to be the first time we're going to be looking at a Wizard in action. Basically, I just wanted to give you an overview of how this hero operates. In my opinion, it is one of the hardest heroes to play in Flesh and Blood. From constructed to blitz, even in limited and sealed and draft, it's quite a challenging hero, just because of the way it requires you to know your deck exactly inside out. Decano ability is really hard to optimize, and you start on 30 life. What else is there to say? But yeah, so here we can have a look at basically both of the players' hands and sideboard. So I just have a look and see what the Wizard player has sideboarded out. So we see a snag taken out. Obviously the Warrior doesn't use too many attack action cards, so seems like a great card. This is something like Ninja. Fork Lightning. It's a very expensive Wizard action, so not surprising that we see the Wizard player taking that out, just because this is a card that's better and more control matchups, or decks that tend to go for many null runes and whatnot. And none of these equipments block, so we're seeing the equipment's really geared towards blocking, which is really crucial against Warrior to stop the counters on Dawnblade. Alright. The good thing is that we get to see both players' hands. So the Warrior player won the dice roll, and we're seeing the Warrior player going first. Cards like Ironsong Determination can be a pain, especially on turn 1, as the Wizard player hasn't had time to set Arsenal. Also, the Wizard player has 4 red cards, which means we won't see many Kano triggers happening. So yeah, let's see what happens. Cashin. Cashin is a cool card from Crucible. Works really well with Spoils of War, which lets the Warrior player generate copper tokens if they hit. The Warrior player opted to hold the Ironsong Determination. I believe it's because they don't have any cards that let them go again without popping the Refraction Bolters. So they're saving it for a turn where they can really maximize the value on that. Keeping a blue as well. I think it just lets the player know that they'll have some cards that will help them get through all the attack actions and reactions next turn. Very interesting hand from the Wizard player. We're seeing cards like Enchanting Melody, which seem great in a situation like this. Great card against the Determination. So yeah, let's see what happens. Yeah, we're seeing that Melody drop down. Very defensive play from the Wizard. I think this game could go for quite some time, just because I think the Wizard player is looking to really just stop everything they can. I think they're going for a more defensive play, try and basically negate all of the attacks from the Warrior player. And yeah, let's see how that pans out. So Dawnblade's coming in for 4. We're seeing an Enchanting Melody. So I doubt that we'll be seeing much of a block from the Wizard player. Cards like Singing Steelblade, if the reprise trigger hits, it allows the player to get something like maybe Glint of Quicksilver and another go again. So yeah, we'll see. Does the wizard just take the damage here? Are they going to wait? Really, really interesting spot. Yeah, so basically the warrior is bound to use some kind of an attack reaction here. Possibly maybe the stroke of foresight just to hit for some damage, force the opponent to use a defense reaction. You know, we have a Fate Foreseen here. Great card in Wizard. I really like it, just because it lets you look at the top card of the deck, and it really sets up those Kano plays. Unfortunately, that won't be happening for the Wizard. Using Kano works when you have lots of blue cards. We're seeing quite a bit of red here. Okay, so threatening 3 damage. I don't think the warrior player can push through this unless they get something like an Iron Song response with the Singing Steel Blade, but then that would mean having to pop Refraction Bolters to get a go again. So we might just see a pass. Or maybe he's going to go for it. Let's have a look. Now, I think the reason the Wizard player went for a Sink Below play here, rather than using the Fate Foreseen from the arsenal, is digging for a blue card. See, if they hit a blue, they could have gone for a Crucible and Snapback play, which would allow them to, deal some damage. But the Tome of the Aetherwind and Snapback have that nice little synergy that Tome draws you cards. It activates Snapback's ability to be able to be played at instant speed and do some damage while drawing cards. So yeah, lots of thinking going on here from the warrior player. I think they're just considering all the possible ways in which they can, go for another hit with the cards that they can get with a Singing Steel Blade. So they're going for it. Now, the Dawnblade is attacking for 8, the Melody's preventing 4, and the Sink Below is preventing 4. So maybe they're just thinking, hey, maybe I can pump through some damage. Let's see what they get. Maybe a Rout, a Glint. They're going to get a go again. But they can't push through enough damage unless they draw a blue card off the top of their library, and of the deck, and they can cast an Overpower or something. I guess that's just the end of the turn. Maybe the warrior player decided that, you know what, might as well go for it, hopefully draw an attack reaction there, and try and force through some damage. But yeah, I think we're just going to see an Overpower. Now, the warrior player doesn't have any access to resources, so even if the wizard player did decide to just take the damage, they are able to basically know that the Dawnblade won't be attacking again. But yeah, interesting, because they do have that Fate Foreseen to block the damage, but at the same time it's a really great card just to have there. It just really depends on what they're thinking of doing next turn. Maybe they're going to pitch these two and just go for straight damage with a Voltic Bolt. Maybe they're going to go for a Tome play, and then that would activate the Snapback. So yeah, we'll see which way they want to go there. Now this should be dealing 4 damage, I believe. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I'm really interested to see how the wizard player decides to play this out. Um, we don't see we don't see any null rune blocks except for an Arcanite Skull Cap with the Arcane Barrier 3 um, from the warrior player, so they are quite exposed to any potential arcane damage. Um, Now I don't know if this is whether they um, don't see many wizards in their metagame, in their local metagame, or is it because they're confident enough or playing aggressively enough to put pressure on the wizard that it doesn't matter in the end? But yeah, we're just seeing a double pitch and Voltic Bolt. So, you know, the wizard player took 4 damage, the warrior player took 5. Um, so yeah, we're seeing a bit of an exchange of damage, but yeah, cards like Warrior's Valor basically demand getting blocked. The wizard player is running cards like Potion, so maybe his plan is to set up for a late game with, a potion or something like that, maybe 3 energy potions, and go for a massive combo of a chain of spells at the end. But yeah, we'll see. So yeah, 1 resource up. The warrior player is doing a great job at signaling to the opponent that they still have a resource up, potentially making the opponent think that this is something like another attack reaction, maybe a stroke of foresight or a out for blood. But in the end, they're just setting up for next turn with an attack like Enlightened Strike, which could just, push some damage through there. Yeah. A nice setup turn for the wizard player. Getting those energy potions out into play is really important. It allows, chaining those powerful, expensive wizard spells at the end. Alright, so we have a Sharpened Steel, pumps for 3, a Dawnblade attack for 6. Now, interesting choice of card here for Eye of Ophidia in Warrior. I guess it works well with cards like Stroke of Foresight, setting up those turns. Maybe the warrior player runs Nature's Path Pilgrimage as well to set up, making sure that they hit on that on-hit effect of Nature's Path. But yeah, also saving 2 resources there. Singing Steelblade could... I think we're seeing the warrior player try and go for a similar play they did before, singing Steelblade into a glint, or allow them to go again. But hey, maybe with a Twinning Blade they can attack another time. We'll see how that goes. So, Fate Foreseen and Sink Billows, these defense reacts I feel like are quite crucial against the warrior player. Warrior in general just demands these very defensive cards to stop Dawnblade attacks. Yeah. Who knows? Ooh, they just decided to take the damage there. Very aggressive. Maybe they're thinking they can get a lot of value with that the Spindle, knowing that their opponent doesn't have much null runes. This can basically set up great draws. Getting a Crucible and the Spindle means you can by opting 5, you can decide which 4 cards you draw into your hand and decide which card is on top left to allow for a Kano play. So yeah, we'll see how that works out for them. So the warrior player decided to pop the refraction bolters because the Dawnblade wasn't blocked. The Singing Steel Blade reprise wouldn't trigger. So yeah, they're really going for an aggressive play here. The Enlightened Strike is going again, so they have 2 resources up, so that Dawnblade will be attacking again. Now, I'm assuming that, we have a counter on the Tunic, so access to 3 resources. So I'm thinking that we're going to see Brave Forge Braces pump, and then also 1 resource available for a Singing Steel Blade. So it's a pretty tough spot for the Wizard player. I don't think they want to take too much damage. A third of their life is gone already. They do have a really powerful play setting up, but taking 5 damage, knowing that there's going to be another Dawnblade swing coming up, is very dangerous. But hey, I think they're considering it. Yeah, here we go. I guess at the end of the day, the Enlightened Strike doesn't have any on-hit effects, which means that it's much better to, if you had to choose which damage to take, it's probably better to take the Enlightened Strike damage and save cards to block the Dawnblade. This allows the Wizard player to stop Dawnblade from getting more counters. But hey, the Singing Steel Blade is a very powerful card, so we'll see if that will be enough. If, a hand of Energy Potion, Aether Spindle, Rousing Aether, and Fate Foreseen, is it going to be enough to stop the Dawnblade? So yeah, we're seeing those braces being used, pumping the Dawnblade into a very annoying attack of 4. A lot of cards block for either 2 or 3, so pumping into 4 forces the Wizard player to either use his equipment or go for a defense reaction play earlier than they would have wanted to. Yeah, it's a pretty tough one. Because, with 1 resource up, there are a number of things that this player could have here. So yeah, we're seeing that block for 4. This is great for the warrior player. They can use the Singing Steel Blade to just pump the Dawnblade by 1. And I'm assuming that, because of the reprise, they get to get another card, and I'm assuming that card is going to be a glint. Oh, no, they've already attacked with the weapon, true. So yeah, that actually works out really well for the Wizard player, because the Dawnblade is attacking for 7, getting blocked for, it was attacking for 8, initial block for 4, and another block for 4. So right now, there's a big life difference, but don't be fooled, because Wizard plays very well on low life. Being able to chain a powerful set of Wizard spells can be enough to deal some damage. A few people have told me to look at it like this. Most heroes start on 40 life, Wizard starts on 30. But the ability to basically have an extra turn, as it may, on your the last turn of your opponent attacking. So, you might be on 1 life, your opponent might be on 15 or 11, and they're going for a final attack, and on their turn, you can swing back into a final chain of spells using Kano's hero power to hopefully get in there and finish off the job. So yeah, here we're seeing Aether Spindle for 5. Very strong. 5 damage, opt 5, which is really a lot. And we're seeing the player kind of be able to arrange basically put the top card of whatever they want. They still have a snapback, which is another 3 damage, which will close the gap a little bit, but it's still 27 life to Wizard being on 15. So yeah, interesting. We'll see how they decide to play this out. Now, there's a lot of options to go for here. Gaze the Ages. Now, I'm still kind of getting my head around this card, to be honest, because you need an action point to use it. So the Opt 2 is great with cards like the Chain Lightning that was put on the top. You know, Chain Lightning sets up another, basically an ability to use a wizard non-attack action card, like the Gaze of Ages, you know, which would allow you to gaze and then get it back into your hand, and then pitch it to use Kano's ability and then get the cards that you just opted. But yeah, here we're seeing just another 3 damage with snapback. So yeah, I think the player's just trying to signal that this stuff is still on the top of their library. They still haven't drawn those cards, it was still part of the opt. So yeah, we're seeing a burn for 3, using the Tunic. The player's going to draw the 4 cards that they wanted to draw using the opt, and now it's back to the warrior's turn. Now the thing is, the warrior is in a tricky spot where the only guaranteed go again card for their weapon is actually their only blue source of resources. So we'll see whether they find it worth it enough to go for that hit and run, or do they want to pitch it. And they're going for the pitch. So right now, in a situation like this, they're just trying to maximize the damage. Attack for 5. No way to get go again, but there's potentially, a pump plus 3, another plus 3. So potentially 11 damage. And if that thing hits, they get to draw a card and get an arsenal. Oh, yeah. Let's see if the wizard player is going to try and continue playing a defensive game, or just take a bit of damage and just try and race them with a burn. Yep, we're seeing a block for 5. All the reprises trigger here. So I think we might see the warrior player go to try and push some damage through. Yep, so they're using their resource. Now let's see if... Oh, so they're going for that double. Now, it's really crucial to understand how priority works in this game. So when the warrior player cast Struck of Foresight, they got priority again. If the opponent decided not to do the defense reaction in their hand, then that time for the Iron Song response would have passed. Okay, 27-9. This is getting pretty close to being over for the wizard player because the life totals are not that close. But I feel like this is a standard thing to see for wizard. It's actually getting your opponent down in that 20, 15, 20 zone is getting dangerous. So the warrior players using cards like Sigil to maintain their life totals. But they're also great for bluffing. Bluffing attack reactions, especially with resources up. It puts the Kano player in a tricky spot of, thinking of what could that card be? Do I have to overblock? And sometimes it does cause the player to overblock and basically lose cards that they wouldn't have had to if they knew that this was just a sigil. Cash in. We're seeing cash-ins. We're not seeing any spoils of war. But hey, maybe we will soon enough. Yeah, so I think the warrior player is making sure that they're really doing their actions one by one to give the wizard player the option to potentially respond using Kano's instant ability. Okay, so this is attacking for 7. 1, 3, 3. And we're seeing the wizard player block for 7. Now, as I said before, the one resource could be means of for bluffing for the the warrior player. And Sigil is a great card to have against the wizard, just because if they decide to go, if they count up all their potential spells to cast, the Sigil could make a miscount happen. Ooh, another 4. And just like that, using 2 cards, the wizard was able to do 8 damage that turn. Powerful attack. So now we see the game close up a little bit. The warrior does have the sigil, so we have 14 to 9. But at the same time, the wizard does have a sink below. And in general, I find it not surprising that the warrior player is not using many null runes. Maybe using 1 null rune. Whether it's, I have seen people prioritize null rune on the head, the hood, as these are quite crucial for warriors gameplay. But in general, playing warrior requires every bit of your resource matters. So a lot of the time I find personally that whenever I verse warrior as a wizard player, they do tend to just try and outrace me rather than try and prevent damage with null runes. Just because their turns can be so threatening if you block wrong. Yeah, so we're seeing the warrior player taking their time, putting out these non-attack actions, gives the wizard player some time to respond. That's quite interesting. It's pretty hard having a whole hand full of red cards. So I think what is happening here is the warrior player is just opting to potentially pitch this, get some damage in with a stroke. They can see that their opponent's getting low on life. Potentially hope for an overblock. If they overblock, they can just use the sigil and store one of these for later. And on the wizard side, we're seeing a very defensive hand. We have 1 sling below in the arsenal, 1 in the hand. So whenever when we're talking about attack reactions on the warrior side, this is a pretty good defense. But in saying that, the wizard player does not have the greatest turn next turn in terms of being able to push through damage. You know, gaze works really well if you've played a wizard non-attack action. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're actually looking to use some of these sync belows to put some of these cards on the bottom, or they're thinking they might do a big turn using Tome of Aetherwind. Let's see. It's a tough spot. Just because, you know, it's really hard to predict what they could draw from Tome of Aetherwind, so there's a lot more to think about when blocking in a turn like this. The warrior player still has 2 cards in hand. They still have a counter on Tunic up, so they could potentially go for that Stroke of Foresight still, which now will have Reprise. Gives them a bit of an idea of whether the Steel Blade is a good card to keep in hand, or maybe they want to switch it up and put something else down in Arsenal. So yeah, here we see that Stroke. So at the moment, the Dawnblade is attacking for 9, and currently defended for 4. So yeah, we'll see whether the wizard wants to drop down to 4 in this life. Yeah. They might be looking at the opponent and saying 14, maybe I can squeeze through 14 damage, doing some damage with that tome on their turn, and then burning back on, well, it's back to the warrior's turn. But yeah, it is tough, because, yeah, there we go. They decided to just go for the aggressive. Yeah, we see that Sigil play. Sigil's great versus Wizard. Now they have to burn 17 damage instead of 14. It's going to be an uphill battle, that's for sure. Very interesting. We see 2 Steelblade Supremacies. Warrior's Valor, which would be great to actually have out and play because it pairs so nicely with Steelblade and Iron Song. So yeah, pretty interested in how the warrior player is going to play this one out. As the Valor is the only source of go again, the Refraction Bolters have been popped. You know, Steelblade Supremacies might draw them some cards, but in the end, they won't give the warrior go again. Is the wizard go for a ballsy play? They most definitely are. So yeah, and I'm interested in how they're going to play this one out. I think I would have liked to see a play where you pitch to Kano first, see what your options are. I mean, it's easy to say now, seeing what they drew, but, you know, I feel like it's worth knowing that if you have an action point, and before you use your action point, you use Kano, it gives you a clearer picture on the options you have for the turn, because you could cast the card that you've just, you know, Kano'd, you still have that one action. So I really like that play with cards like Aetherflare. If you have a red Aetherflare in your hand initially and you have some blues, I think it's worth pitching and seeing, you know, maybe you hit a spell on Kano, and then you can Aetherflare and use the Kano'd spell as well to burn for extra damage. But yeah. Is the wizard player gonna go for it? Are they gonna pitch to Kano here? And if they are, what are they gonna hit? Here we go. Should I have a look? Oh, Sonic Boom. Powerful, powerful card. So yeah, it goes to the banished zone for now. There are a number of options. There's still 5 resources in this player's hand. You know, they could pitch a blue, Crucible. There's also an option to pop these. It would allow the player to Aether Flare, potentially. You know, with Crucible, that would be 4 damage, and it would pump the Sonic Boom into attacking for 7. So that's 11 damage. It wouldn't finish the job, but it would get pretty close. So we're seeing a Sonic Boom for 4. Yeah, there's nothing the warrior player can do about it. Let's see if ooh, a Lesson in Lava. So it allows this player to play the Lesson in Lava for free, being able to fetch cards like another Lesson in Lava and cards like Blazing Aether. So yeah, at the moment we're seeing 4 damage. This would be another 3. If we see a Blazing Aether, we could see... could we see Storm Strider's pop? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, I think the Kano player's 1 resource off from being able to pop the Striders, cast the Aether Flare, and then Blazing Aether there. So yeah, what's going to happen? Okay, so they decide to just Blazing Aether there for 7. By placing the Voltic Bolt in the arsenal with Storm Striders up, if the wizard player is confident enough that the warrior player doesn't run any prayers, maybe we'll see him go for a burn on the opponent's turn, but we'll see. The thing is now, what is important to know is that the warrior player dropped quite low, so their Arcanite Skull Cap basically is up, allowing them to pitch resources to prevent arcane damage now. So potentially it could be worth it for the wizard player to take some damage. You know, if they go down to 3, 2, or 1, it allows them to burn the opposing player without fearing pitching to prevent damage to the skull cap. But hey, maybe cards like Prayer could make an appearance. So I think it's very situational, and it's up to the individual player to know whether they want to go low to go for the burn, or whether they just want to play it safe. Interesting. So we're seeing the warrior player playing quite safe. They're playing a very safe game. I think they're hoping for some blocks. They know that they can pitch resources to the skull cap. So yeah, let's see how this pans out. Okay. So we're seeing the Kano player take quite a conservative approach. They're trying to block up the damage. And just waiting for the warrior player to run out of resources before making a big burn. So yeah, the Kano player didn't play too hastily. They didn't pop the Striders. They're just going to go for a good old-fashioned Voltic Bolt. So even though the Arcanite Skullcap is there, yeah, only 3 damage can be prevented, and that's enough to kill the warrior player. Now we saw a good kind of, this gave us a good idea on how, even though the wizard player was severely below, I believe it was something like 27 life to 15, or even 35 to 15, they were still able to make a comeback over time. I mean, obviously, this game could have played a lot differently if the warrior player did play, 3 null runes or cards like Prayer. But I hope this showed you and gave you an idea of how powerful Wizard can be, especially using these new Crucible cards that allow the player to, cast a lot of more instant-like speed spells, especially Snapback. This card looks amazing. I think it's probably, in my opinion, my favorite card from Crucible for Wizard. Chain Lightning is amazing as well. But yeah, I might post up a video. Both these players have their lists geared towards certain play fields. I believe the warrior player's list doesn't, the lack of null runes or prayers is a sign that they're not very afraid of wizard. And previously I've seen this player do very well against wizard without any prayers or null runes. So yeah. I hope you enjoyed watching this game, and I hope you got a lot of useful information watching both sides of, what the players had in their hands, how they decided to play this game out. And I hope you had some interest in playing Wizard, which is, a very tough class to get used to, but once you kind of see how it rolls, it's actually really fun, and it can win a lot of games too. So, thanks for watching.